Welcome back to Two Canadians at Kafe Lise, a Vigor podcast, episode 36. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Anton, and the other with me is DJ Spencer. And today we're going to be discussing deconstruction, how to get materials, the best way to get the most out of your materials, and just some various tips and what you get for materials in various forms, throughout the game. We know that there's a lot of people that have issues running out of materials a lot.
Yeah.
So we figured maybe this will help some people, give them some tips, tricks, and tips. And so that's what
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. And it blew my mind because there's some streamers that I watch all the time, right? And obviously they watch me and like everyone, because everyone watches everyone. But I was just shocked because like some people who have played this game maybe not as long as us or even longer, like they have problems maintaining like 6 digits in materials, and like they're running like lower quality guns because not because they choose to, but they can't craft anything higher or craft the ports or armor plates that they want. So I'm hoping this kind of helps out. Who
Yeah,
knows?
you
I
never
don't know.
Yeah,
because like we were talking about it beforehand, right, Doc? It's like both of us are well over 1 million in materials, and it's like for me, for example, it's like at the beginning of each season, I go and do a bunch of stuff to get a bunch of materials or generate a bunch of materials, and I'm usually good till the mid-season update, if not the following season, right? And it's just like a rinse and repeat process. And it's like if I get close to like 1 million materials left, I'm like, oh, I have to do this again because
yeah.
it's like OCD, but it's like it's not for a lack of materials. So, anyways,
It's understandable at the beginning as you starting this game. It's going to be a while before you get to the point where you're up there, and that's why there's an achievement or a trophy if you're on PlayStation. For when you get to the 1 million material mark, you'll get a
yep,
little boom. You've hit 1 million materials.
yep,
So yeah, when you're starting out, it is a challenge for sure. But when you've been playing the game for a while, should get to the point where you don't have to think about materials too much
yeah,
anymore,
yeah.
and so it's
This
sort of to
is
help those people out too, right?
Yeah, it's all about sustainability, right? So it's like you want to be self-sufficient and like not have to be like worried about like materials and not being able to craft items and whatnot. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So we have a big spreadsheet we're going to show you, but before we get into it, quickly, just want to say, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us out. Just maybe generate some more visibility to us for people. If you're listening to the podcast, even liking or even rating the podcast side helps too, just to
Yep.
get us out there and people find us a little easier. So we do appreciate it.
Yep.
But yeah,
And
let's. Oh,
just a little note for the spreadsheet. I did this pretty late. It I'm not gonna lie, there may be some wrong numbers in here, but we could always go back and fix them or whatnot. So if there is a mistake, please do let us know
yeah.
and we'll
If you
fix
notice
it up.
anything, point it out.
Yeah.
We'll try to update it as well. We're going to share the link for the spreadsheet in the notes, so you'll be able to view it. And if you notice anything, let us know, and we'll go in and update it. And if we notice anything, we'll go through and update it as well. So
Yeah.
here, let's bring it up. So
And this is as of season 11.1.
yeah, 11.1. We're right
Because
at
they
the
do
beginning
change
of April.
things.
What's that?
They do change values
They do
sometimes.
like to change things around, as we discovered when we did the resources one. Resources haven't changed a lot since we did that spreadsheet, but there have been some tweaks. So
Yeah, to the XP.
yeah, so expect a little tweaks here and there for these two as they like to tweak, which is fine.
Yep.
But yeah, so as we get into this, we'll start out with the weapons. And weapons, there's two ways to deconstruct. So you can deconstruct the weapon itself, or you can deconstruct the parts you have for the weapons. Um, Now, at one time, I think there was a little bit of, well, use the parts to make the weapon and then deconstruct it. But as you do the calculations based on how many parts are required for some weapons, you might get a little bit of extra materials, but it's not significant.
No,
So that's up
it,
to
it
you. Spend the
yeah,
time.
it's pretty negligible,
It is,
honestly.
yeah, and it's not hard to do. And in some cases, it's really odd. Just the differences between the two, and it's usually based on the parts required. But we're going to go by section. We're not going to highlight every single weapon unless there's like a little oddity with that weapon.
Mhm.
But we'll just go by section. We'll start off with like the special issues, which are all the gold tier weapons. There are differences based on if it's a melee, if it's a pistol, submachine gun, and then basically assault rifle to shotgun is all pretty similar. But you'll see, like this on the lower end, you're getting about 693 materials out of a weapon part, like for the John, to 2,000 for the actual weapon, and then 1,100 for the next level up, and then 2,176 for the bigger weapons. And when you calculate it all out, it basically works out with the weapon values and part values. But the gold is always where it's at generally for deconstruction.
Yep.
Now, these values that we're showing are also based on a fully constructed um, chemical distillation. So, chemical the in your shelter, you have the chemical distillation. It if you get it fully constructed, you get like a 36% increase in the return of how much you get for materials for when you deconstruct. That
Yep.
only affects weapons, consumables, and parts, but it doesn't affect resources. So when we get into the resource section, those won't be affected by what your chemical distillation's at.
Yep.
Um, Take us through military.
Yeah. So military, like it is pretty much standard, which is kind of surprising compared to like um special issue. Mind you, there's no melee weapon really that's military
Yeah,
grade.
right.
So you're basically getting 1100 or 693 for the various types. Now, typically, like I was kind of mentioning this to Doc beforehand, is I was trying to look for a pattern, right? Um, for the different weapon types, and like originally, it kind of looked like it was rifle was always going to give you the most bang for your buck, followed by assault rifles, machine guns, shotguns, submachine guns, pistols, and then melees. But then there's like Doc said, there's like the oddities, and they kind of like throw things off. Like just for example, the new Remy shotgun, same exact thing as like the PH, the SVD, SVU type thing. Um, but the L85, it
Yeah,
costs the same thing to craft, but it gives you a lot less to deconstruct. But even though like the part value itself does give you like a ton more of resources,
yeah.
but it does require uh, less parts to craft
Right.
compared to the other ones.
And when you look at like something
Um,
like the equivalent being the Log Chiave or whatever in military, it doesn't have that weird, disconnect. It pretty much stays in line with everything else. So
Yeah. So here in military, again, rifles are basically what's going to give you the most bang for your buck. Uh, the issue is though, like these are like the rifles in military grade are like some of the like most popular guns. Like the SG1, the H bar, the VSS has like a brand new resurgence with like the latest quality of life update where now like the ammo stacks in 30s instead of like just 10s. So if you guys, the thing is, you always, if you're not going to use a weapon, you might as well deconstruct it if you're hard for materials. And in this case here, boom, go with any of these three if you don't use them. The bugle here is kind of odd because it does give you less compared to the AUR A1. Hold on, am I reading that right? Yes, I am. Okay.
Actually, pretty similar because it takes one less part to make.
Yeah, I'm just going based off overall, like the actual weapon value itself, because you're getting
Oh,
1,100 less materials.
yeah.
So like to me that kind of stands out, and maybe it's not as worth deconstructing a bugle over an A1, but again, like these are very popular weapons.
Mhm.
Unless you're like brand new to the game and you're you're really hard on mats, and you can get quite a bit of materials out of these things, maybe hold off on deconstructing these.
Yeah.
Another thing to note too, um, in military grade, the B93 Rafika. So, history lesson: Rafika came out in season 7. It came out as a common. It was super cheap to craft, 10 seconds to craft, and it was a beast. Literally, like, changed the meta. Um, there were so many comments about how good it was that season 8, they actually nerfed it. Well, somewhat. They changed a little bit of the recoil, and they actually bumped it up here to military grade. They bumped up the crafting cost, um, but they originally did not change the deconstruction cost, because in one of the dev streams they kind of announced it, that what was coming, that it was going to get bumped up to military grade. So a bunch of people actually ended up crafting a ton of B93 Rafikas in order to kind of like gain from
Yeah.
the deconstruction cost, right? But uh after, I believe it was in the 8.1 update, so it was a few months after the fact, they actually bumped up the deconstruction cost. So now it's where it's at, where it's in line with the PSS, where the parts, you're going to get 693 materials, and weapon value 2774, which, like, honestly, for pistols, I love the Rafika. I would not just deconstruct it, but it does provide good value if you're not going to use it.
And when they first bumped it up, I think they didn't bump up the construction cost at first either. I think when it first went
No,
to
they did. Yeah, yeah.
I could have swore you could still build it for the same amount.
No, no, the construction costs got bumped up because they didn't want any more people to like craft anymore.
Mm.
So they kept the cost. They bumped up the cost, but it was deconstruction
It was
because
the
they
deconstruction that
didn't.
didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then one other thing too of note. While I was writing this spreadsheet, um, do I talk about that now?
Well, actually, there's two things. Well, yeah, we can talk about it. Like the M76, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, the ZA
Yeah.
M76 sniper rifle.
There's actually
So
two things about it, really. The first thing, before you
yeah,
mention yours, is if you look at it, it's a rifle, but it's in the like lower tier of the deconstruction costs.
yeah,
So for some reason, it's only 693 to just deconstruct the parts and 4161 for the rifle itself. So it's kind
yeah,
of odd. It's like it's a rifle, but it's up there with the pistols and shotguns for decon. So that's a
yeah.
little odd. But then
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
a
few
little different.
goes,
And
and
then
we'll
yeah, so if you go to the deconstruction screen under the parts, and you go to the ZA M76, which is military grade, the icon is actually blue, which is rare, and it actually says rare crafting part, I believe.
yeah,
I
rare
can't
crafting
remember.
part I have on the
So I was
screen.
like, oh my god, I'm like, I got to screenshot this, just to like, I'll submit it as a bug or whatnot, and then like it's not anything broken or anything like that. It's just minor housekeeping things that
Somebody hasn't
nothing to
updated
fix.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but it's kind of funny, right? Because the ZA has always been a military grade weapon. It's never changed classes or rarity. So it just like slight oversight or whatnot. Maybe originally it was supposed to be a rare item. I don't know, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And yeah, oh, I thought there was one thing that we had noticed, but maybe not. It's just really funny how it worked out. The M249, it looked like the deconstructing the weapon was like a dyslexia thing, but then when you consider that it's one less part to make it,
Oh
then it
yeah,
kind of works out. It's just a really funny that the uh the RPK-74 is 55.48, and then the M249 is 48.55. At
yeah.
that level of deconstruction, everything, it's like the perfect switch, but
You
there is
know
that
what?
difference.
If
So
Yeah, if we want to be nitpicky about it too, it's like you would think the UK would take more parts and give you more weapon value because it's an overweight LMG, right?
yeah, M249
And
is not.
and and
Yeah,
then the M249 is not, the RPK-74 is not either. So, oh my god, it's a little like I said, we're nitpicking. It's not a big deal, but
it's just
it's just
funny.
like overthinking and stuff, and it's just kind of funny.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's the military grade. Then we go down to the rare, the blues, the actual blues, and yeah,
yeah,
they'll range all the way from 285 for a part, to 693, depending on it's like the melee weapons and special weapon being the crossbow are all in the
yeah,
lower range, 285. Though for some reason, the fallen knifin, fallen knifin, deconstructing the weapon itself is a lot better than deconstructing the parts.
yeah,
Um, for some reason, it's worth 1713, and it's only a three-part weapon, just like the other knife and the crossbow.
yeah.
So
I hope that's not a mistake on my part, the late night stuff, but
yeah, so
um,
I guess we'll see. Let us know, or we'll have to double
yeah,
check.
let us know. But one thing that is shocking for me though is like the crossbow is like the
Yeah,
value of a
same
knife.
as
Like,
a knife.
oh my god, that's like when I saw that, I was like, that's shocking. I'm
Very
wondering
shocking.
now. I'm paranoid now that I swapped
You
like
made a
the fall
mistake.
knife in with like the crossbow, but I'm like, oh god, please don't be it. Please let it be right. And I don't know.
If we
This is
did make
what
a
I
mistake,
shouldn't. I need
we'll
more
update
sleep.
the spreadsheet. Yeah. Yeah, you had some rough nights. But if we
Yeah,
did make a mistake, we'll update the spreadsheet. So if you go to check out the spreadsheet after the fact and we realize we made a mistake, we'll fix it. Um,
yeah,
but right now, this is what we believe are the values.
yeah,
And then yeah, you got the five. So you got three ranges in the rares. You got the 530 ranges for shotguns, pistols, and the submachine guns. And then when you get to the assault rifles and machine guns, then you have the high range for what it is to decon. Um, yeah.
yeah.
So
It's kind of curious too that like in the rares, the machine guns are the ones where you're getting the most value. Um,
yeah,
out
yeah,
of
yeah.
it.
Well, they're all pretty similar though. Like it seems like you're getting the most value, but they do take one extra part to make. So if you look at the
Yeah,
rifles, there's 6 parts instead of 7. So when you do the math, it's pretty close. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. After rares are the uncommons.
Uh, yeah. So again, like it's kind of like machine guns where it's at, machine gewehr, but again, like Doc just said, it does use more parts. Um, oh my god, like I look at the VZ52 and I'm like quality materials, but I'm like honestly for a beginner gun, like low, like it's not like a common weapon, but it's like one of those lower tier guns that are like really good, very strong. It's like I would this class is where like honestly I would try to hold as many weapons as I can or try to learn to use
Yeah.
them, especially early on, because you have the Suomi is an absolute beast. Like I still use it. The
A74K is one
A74K,
of my favorites. Yeah, I'll use it all
yeah,
the time.
one of Doc's favorites. Machine guns, honestly, any machine gun for me is on the list of deconstruction. except for the M249. Um, but
Yeah.
that's my personal preference. And the VZ52, absolutely a beast of a rifle. So like the uncommons are like where you start getting those like that tier that as a beginner that you kind of want to like get good at, to hold off and maybe stockpile the higher end weapons, I would say.
Right.
But like obviously you want to start at the commons, but um,
Yeah.
and work your way up.
Right. Yeah. And then going down to the commons, now in the gray section, there's two actually. There's the commons and the plentifuls. And until recently, when DJ brought it up to me, I had no clue there was anything called a
Yeah,
plentiful.
last episode. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god, this is like
plentiful?
we've only been playing for almost 2 years, and it's like it just noticed it. And it's funny because oh my god, who was someone who's been playing since like day one, pretty much. And they're like, I didn't know this. Like
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it's just it's funny. And it's fun. What's really funny is that there's a couple really good weapons in the plentiful category too. Um,
Mhm.
well, there's got the M2 carbine. The Mosin actually is a really good sniper rifle. It's just it's a little slow, but it's a good decent distance rifle. Everything else in there are usable for sure, but there's probably that reason they're plentiful is they're not the best guns. But then you get up to the commons, yeah, you got the really the workhorses of the gray section, M16, AKM,
Yeah.
now the SKS. It's got a huge
Yeah.
boost. And but
Mhm.
then you get the IZH shotgun, and then a couple other good, decent little things like the rack and the grease gun, which aren't the best, but they do a good job. They can do a good job. But looking at their part values, again, when you get into the commons, you're not really deconstructing for parts. You
No.
don't get a big
For
return.
materials, yeah.
81 to 244 for the parts, 163 to 489 for the actual weapons. So, like, if you have a whole bunch of AKMs, like I have 100 AKMs, deconstruct that, I'll get 48,000 materials. That's not a lot
Mhm.
for a really good gun. Like, I'd rather have the gun than 48,000 mats, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like that gives you like one SVD or and a
Yeah,
half roughly, right? So it's like
yeah.
at that point, it's like there's no value really.
There's no value. So
You,
when you're looking
you
at deconstructing, you're definitely looking at the higher tiers.
yeah, and honestly, it's like even if you deconstructed, say, like a grease gun to try to get like AKM or something else in that same category, it's like it's still going to take you quite a few to get the one weapon. And
Yeah.
is it worth it at that point? Probably
Oh,
not.
the only thing I hold on to them for, if I want to deconstruct them, it's only if I have a challenge that says deconstruct 5 weapons. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
deconstruct 5
Mhm.
pistols. I'm done.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's the only time. It's not for the materials, it's just to do a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same for
Mhm.
the plentiful's. Again, you're getting it's even less. So what's the point of deconstructing them? I guess if you just want to be there are people who like to do their own like personal challenges. Like if you look at Smokey Dopey, Honorable Bandits, he every season he goes through, he deconstructs all his weapons, and then
Yep.
he starts from scratch. Like he just gets what he
Yep.
can and starts building up his inventory again, and that's cool.
Yep.
When you get to a certain point, you got to find new ways of challenging yourself, and that's one way he
Yep.
does. And there's others
Yep.
who probably do something similar. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. I know Mod Vlog's done it like a couple times in the past. I think on YouTube that guy Brian Evans, he actually just did it too. He wiped out his whole inventory to do the same exact thing and just try to rebuild everything. So,
Yeah.
like you said, just try to challenge yourself.
Yeah, because you get to a point like your shelter's done. You've been playing the
Yep.
game for a few years. You got to start from scratch. You got to find ways to make it keep it interesting. Still love playing the game. So give yourself a reason. Like okay, I'm starting from scratch. I'm going from like almost like a zero to hero, not just for an encounter, but for your whole stash.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's weapons, parts and weapon values. So a lot to take in there. But again, just remember when you're getting up to the special issues and all, and that's where you're getting the best bang for your bucks,
Yeah,
golds and purples and all that.
yeah.
And the bigger the weapon in the category, the more you'll get.
Yeah, and honestly, like when the PH first came out, the PHM 82 first came out, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't like this sniper rifle whatsoever. SVD, SVU for me, all for life. And then with the recent update, oh my god, PH is amazing. I literally cannot put that thing down on like Phil Canton. It's like if anyone follows like my hover account, I'm posting clips there all the time of like PH snipes and stuff like that. It's disgusting. And like honestly, like I regret I probably deconstructed at least like 30 of them early on because I was like, hey, look, like you get a ton of materials out of these things. And now it's I regret it. I feel like mistakes
And
were made.
mistakes were made, and I'm less of a sniper person. I have
Yeah.
more success with, I actually have more success with, like, the M76, the ZA M76. I find I can snipe with that one better than I can with the others. Um, but I'm not a very good sniper in this
Yeah.
game yet, so
Yeah, it takes practice.
it does. Oh, yeah, it
Oh,
totally does, and you have to, get on those maps where you can snipe, because, I'll take a sniper in with me, but if I'm playing a map where I'm running through trees a lot, you're not
yeah.
doing a lot of
Yeah.
sniping.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's the weapons and the parts. Now we'll move on to consumables,
Yep.
and less to talk about here, but it's still based on rarity and everything. I think the first, so take us through the special issues.
So special issues. Um, Honestly, the big one for me, iodine. We've talked about it in the past, both Doc and
Yeah,
I. Um, we won't bring it into encounters. We'll use it if we find it there. But like honestly, the goal is to go into those encounters. If you get the, make sure you get out because it provides you like amazing amount of materials. Um, what is it? 100. It's almost like 200 iodine. Basically, gives you a million materials. If I'm not mistaken, it's roughly in that range, give or take. But
close.
mind you,
Yeah,
yeah, you're basically like at max chemical distillation as well. I think.
for
Um,
that 36% increase. Yeah,
yeah, so it's so you want to try to get those iodine tablets out successfully. And I don't know, like it's been a few seasons now, but they've kind of increased the amount of iodine within encounters, and it just seems like sometimes I'm getting out with like 3 or 4 of them.
right.
So it's like that count is going up in my shelter, and definitely like does provide for a ton of materials. Now, the one other thing that I do note is the frag grenade does not give you a ton of materials. Now it does use not like a lot of parts, but that's probably the correlation. But it's kind of shocking, to be honest, when you consider that is a special issue. So I guess
Yeah,
it's a debate of do you base it off of like how many parts are required or the rarity of the item. Um, so
and
uh,
when you look at the part value for deconstruction, it's on par with the rest of the special issues. So you're
yeah,
getting 693 part mats out of one part of it. So yeah, I guess there's that. So it probably does keep based on how many parts it uses and all that. But yeah,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah, that's again, for me. It's the golds, like iodine, like for sure.
yeah,
And most of the golds, when you get to a certain point, like where we're at, we've been playing for a while. And especially when you get to your water distillation to be at max level, you can construct a lot of this stuff instantaneously. And other than like say the iodine, everything else is pretty useful in the
yeah,
gold tier. The armor plates. I always take an armor plate in. Nowadays, I'm taking like an armor plate. I'm taking a couple grenades and a couple portable signals for sure.
yeah.
Maybe I'll take some mortars in with me on occasion. But like again, I never take any iodine. If I
Yeah.
find it, I'll use it. That's it. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
and this is where you're and really, if you have a lot of materials and you have a good stock of weapons, the only thing you're going to be using your mats on are those golds.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that.
That
Yeah.
that will drain your materials like big time, especially if your gun inventory is fine. Like sometimes before stream starts, it's like I'm sitting there crafting like say like 20 ports, armor plates or whatever, and it's like you just see the total materials go down. Um,
Yeah.
it's like and I the one thing I don't know if you remember the anniversary partner challenge challenges that they put out. So for the Vigor partner challenges, they had to deconstruct I think it was 10 armor plates
Oh,
as
really?
a challenge. And
Yeah.
like DizzyOnline, one of the OG campaign partners, made a funny like YouTube or I think it was YouTube short or TikTok short or something. Oh my god, it was so hilarious. He literally like took a screenshot of him deconstructing them, and then there was like a sad trombone and like or a crying sound bite. Oh my god, it was hilarious because it's like honestly, who deconstructs armor plates? There's no
No way.
way. I'm like
Yeah.
the fact that the devs made the partners do that, and I'm like, obviously, none of the partners have issues with materials, but like it was so funny the way he did it to present it because they had to show video proof of them actually doing it, right? So like the fact that he did it that way, oh my god. Kudos to Dizzy. It was amazing. I loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next ones, and then yeah, the next ones are mostly stuff that if I have it, I'll use it or I'll deconstruct it, like the military grade, um, contact bombs, booby traps, flash grenades, and improvised mines. All things that I don't really take into an encounter unless I have a challenge to do it. If there's a challenge to use, I don't think I've ever seen a challenge for booby traps. Maybe
Mm.
contact bombs. I'm not
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
and nothing yet for flash grenades or improvised mines. So those are the kind of things where if I have them and I have a great quantity of them, there's a good chance I'll deconstruct them at some point if I need the mats. And then yeah, the purple you get like 530 per part or 2652 for the actual whole thing. And then again, level 13 chemical distillation, so they get the little 36% boost. So it'll be
Yeah.
your results will vary based on where your chem distillation's at.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm the same way, Doc. Like
Yeah.
if I get it in, I might use it. I think I have almost like I have over 500 contact bombs in the shelter, if not 600. It's not something I really use unless um I have the challenge or if I kind of want to goof off and try to get a silly kill after the fact. But
Yeah, because
uh,
there's the whole thing where you can, like, I think, put some contact bombs with I think a transmitter, because the transmitter sound will sort of
yeah,
block the sound of the contact bombs. So
yeah,
little
yeah.
tricks like that try to get people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then after that, we're going to the rares. Um, here, it's tough because there's a bunch of things that are actually kind of useful, like antibiotics. I'm telling you right now, don't you dare deconstruct antibiotics. Don't
Yeah.
don't even think about it. It
It's like,
is oh my god, like honestly, blasphemy. Like
yeah.
literally, like the best heal, like long term, anyways, in the game. Like you should not be deconstructing this whatsoever. Um,
We start getting
transmitters.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
go
start
ahead.
getting to the blues and lower. You're getting to the useful stuff. The kind of
Yeah.
stuff that, yeah, you're gonna take into an encounter. There's a lot of heals in here. Sure, some of the tools you may not take in all the time, but
Mhm.
they're useful tools, like the
Yeah.
transmitter, the jammer. They can be really fun to play with, and, you can do a lot of interesting things with them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like especially with the transmitter getting the quality of life change recently in the last couple of seasons, where it's like your portables or even signals will not actually detect it, or it'll mark it and then actually show you the next closest opponent rather
Yeah.
than your transmitter. Um, like it's actually kind of useful. I have like a giant number of them. I might deconstruct some, but they are still useful. And then you do have challenges, kind of often enough that I do keep a stockpile of them. But for me, like caffeine too is somewhat useful depending on your play style. You might want to bring some in, but for myself, it's like it's only something I might use if I'm in the encounter. But again, it all depends on your play style for the caffeine. But like honestly, caffeine doesn't give you a whole lot of materials
No.
when it comes down to it. So maybe you bring
Yeah,
it in anyway and use it.
yeah. When you get into the blues, the uncommons, the greens, and the commons, the grays, you're not getting much. It's like with those lower level weapons, you're not getting a lot. So it's the point
Yeah.
of doing it. It's almost like unless you have to for
Yeah.
a challenge, there's
Yeah.
no real good reason to try to deconstruct these little ones. Yeah, because the uncommons, the painkillers, alarm decoy, alarm traps, and the decoys, you're getting like 244 for a part and 734 for a consumable. For the
Yeah.
actual device consumable. So
This is
not a
another one warning though. Do not deconstruct painkillers.
no
Painkillers and antibiotics, best
ones.
combo you could ever have
Yeah.
in the game during a fight. Pop that painkiller, pop that antibiotic right after. Do not, I repeat, do not deconstruct painkillers. I made Kino cry because he saw me deconstruct some painkillers once and he explained to me why. And I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. So, anyway,
Yeah.
share the knowledge.
Go see our episode on the healing consumables.
Yes,
We'll take you all through
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, definitely.
And
But
then
alarm
last,
trap, decoys,
yeah.
have at her. I don't even,
No,
not
those are
useful. And
definitely
it's like,
something I don't take in unless like alarm traps. There are challenges for alarm traps, so those the only time I'll take them in is if I have the challenge.
yeah,
Decoys, I think I've seen a challenge for that, and they've become less effective since they've changed them.
yeah. And honestly, like, I'm sad about that. I'm
Yeah.
hoping at some point they bring it back and make decoys useful again. So,
And then on the commons, we have the disinfectants, bandages, and fake glints.
yeah,
Again, you don't deconstruct bandages or disinfectants. Like bandages, a lot of people don't like bandages just because they take longer to use, but
yeah,
they give you a lot of healing if you're really hurt. Like if you have the
yeah,
time and you're like really hurt and you just have a sliver left and you're not in a combat situation, a bandage is great because it'll take you like to a like halfway of how much damage you've taken. So they can be
yeah.
really effective, but yeah, they're a little long to use. But disinfectant's like the standard, right? It's the one that
Oh
it's
yeah.
quick to use and it gives you a good little chunk of health. So
Yep.
fake plants, whatever. You want to just deconstruct those. They're
Yeah.
using up your inventory slot space that you're so short on.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But again,
Um,
you do get challenges for fake glints, so
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you do. Yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah. Ton. That transmitter is pretty frequent, anyways, for myself.
Yeah.
So definitely worth using. Um, yeah.
And then the last thing to talk about for deconstructing out of your shelter are resources, which a lot of people probably don't
Oh,
think about that you can deconstruct resources. What?
sorry. We could talk about ammo too.
Oh, we didn't talk about ammo. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Ammo. And I think ammo gets a boost out of your chem distillation. I'm not sure though.
I'm not
Yes.
quite sure either. It's a good question.
Yeah.
No, actually, it does not. It does not.
Is it? Okay.
No, I don't think it does.
So
Because
it may be the same.
yeah, for ammo, it's pretty straightforward. Honestly, the gold standard is the special issue ammo for the ADR. It comes in like 40, or it's
Okay.
40 to deconstruct. And because
Oh,
you come out with a stack of 50, it's
yeah,
basically
stack.
2,000 materials. So yeah, it does not get affected by your chemical distillation because it
There
doesn't
we go.
change.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so if ever you go into encounter and you find ADR ammo, you have room for it, definitely bring it out because you could always bring it out and deconstruct it. um, the key thing too to remember about all the ammo is it costs the same amount to craft it. You're getting it back in deconstruction costs, so you're not losing any materials. So honestly, if you want to wipe out all your ammo to get materials and then just craft as you need it,
Yeah,
maybe you do that.
you're
The
not
only
losing.
thing, yeah, you're not losing anything. So that's why, like, especially for the ADR ammo, you want to do that because you get a good amount of materials for that. Um, the one thing I thought was kind of interesting is the crossbow bolts are the only thing classified as plentiful, and you literally get one material for every one, so it costs you one to build or to craft, and
I
then
didn't know
one to
that.
deconstruct. So
That's
it's like
hilarious.
I'm like,
Uh,
oh my god, crossbows, come on, you're killing me here. Like,
yeah, yeah, the crossbows are so weird.
yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So
so there we go. We got the ammo,
yeah,
and then after ammo is the resources. So this is the one that you may not think of. You can deconstruct resources because when you get to a certain point, you don't need a lot of these resources anymore. Or you're going to get so many of them that you know, then that's what they become good for. Because when you finish a shelter, you might think, "Oh, I don't need to pick up resources anymore," but it's another way to get resources,
yeah,
or not resources. I'm sorry,
material.
materials.
Yeah,
Of course, the purples being the best for that. Your electronics and your fuel. You'll get 200 per. So if you get like 10,000 fuel in your shelter, that's a significant amount of materials you can get.
yeah.
Of course, the commons are not worth much. So
Mhm.
and it's kind of funny that nails. Well, the nails are also the one that have a smaller stack. So I
Yeah,
guess because of the smaller stack, it's you get a bit more per nail,
yeah,
as like metal parts or wire. So ones or fives. Fertilizer glass 10 each. Chemicals 50. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
uh,
yeah,
if you're sitting on a lot of stuff, that's a way to get mats.
yes. So definitely you want to build up that inventory for sure, and that's part of the reason why.
Yeah,
Um, so next, we could talk about materials returned on when you die in an encounter. Now, Cristiferbeast, who we've had on the podcast, he's a Vigor partner. He actually did a video, and we're going to post a link in the description. So the video is from like 9 months ago, maybe a bit longer. Uh, I think it's dates May 29th, 2021. Um, so they
almost.
did him and Bobo Rail did some research and they figured out that um, you're reimbursed if you die in an encounter. So there's a formula there. It's two, 20% of the cost of your loadout when you die plus the material cost of any resources that you've acquired on like within the encounter that you have on yourself. Okay, so it is a small percentage. So like if you die and you're like fully kitted, your inventory is full, you're still going to get a little bit left, but it's not a big payoff as if you had actually left the encounter and deconstructed it all. It's just kind of like a little return, um, I guess, for your time. And I guess maybe it affects more for like the newer players that they may not have a ton of materials and it's just a little way of like kind of giving them a little something back. So do check it out. It's like under 5 minutes. It is very like informative. So do check it out. But that is basically the formula for
Yeah,
reimbursement.
yeah. So, and it's kind of cool that they give you something back if you die, and that's regardless if you have insurance or not. So, if you have insurance,
Yeah,
I believe you get that plus you get um, what you took in back with you. So,
yeah,
uh, But so that's a little bit of a thing. You died. Okay, here's some mats to make up for what you lost. Not quite make up, but help. Yeah.
Yeah. And they may have tweaked the formula,
Oh, sure.
since then too, because like it's 10 months old or whatnot. But like you said, it is good that they kind of put that out there.
Yeah. Another, and then I think one of the other ways to get materials is, well, actually, we haven't mentioned this yet, obviously, is through your shelter, through a couple different upgrades to your shelter. There's the box of herbs. There's like those 4 boxes that you can
Yep.
build up. Um, I think they fill up within a couple days, or is it with the 2 days? I think it's like a 2-day fill up or whatever.
I think,
Um,
yeah, it's like 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days, and your wood pile.
Yeah, wood log. Yeah.
Wood log. It starts out as a wood log and then eventually turns into a saw table. So those are the two way, and the saw table fills up in a day. So it's like one
Yep.
day that'll fill up based on whatever level it's at, it'll fill up. And then
Yep.
within a few days, the box of herbs will fill up. And so those are just throughout your shelter ways of getting materials. Each time you log in, make sure go through and collect them.
Yep.
But then other than that, your crates. Um, we don't know the full values of everything that comes out of crates, but we have a bit of a guess here. Um,
Yep.
Special issue crates give you the most if you get materials out of them. I had a crate that's getting ready to give me 10,000 materials out of
Yep.
it. I think
And I had a 20K one.
a 20K one.
Yeah.
So, obviously you don't get those every day, but
No.
you can get those every week if you've gotten to the point where you can max out your food donations. So a good way is, so that's your special issues. But then each level of crate will usually have some kind of the potential to give you materials.
Yep.
Even shootout crates, you can get a couple hundred out of there, maybe, and that might fluctuate, but that's just
Yep.
one example right now. Elim crates, we've seen from 750 to 1,000. There could be less or more.
Yep.
Resource crates, they're actually pretty decent. They can give you from. I think I had an example of 1,000, and you might have had one that's 1,250,
Yep.
or vice versa.
Yep.
We've seen uncommons in the 500 to 750 range, give or take.
Yep.
We haven't seen examples currently of like the military or the rares, but if they keep in the same sort of general guidelines, the militaries are probably going to be in the 5,000 to 7,000 range.
Yep.
And then like the rares will probably be in the maybe 2 to 3,000 range, and then or even 1,000 maybe. But and then the
Yeah.
last would be the commons, and the commons there might be, I think they might get like 250. Don't
Yeah.
know
Or
much
100 type thing.
or 100. Yeah, but yeah, your crates. So definitely keep an eye on your crates. You'll usually get some materials out of there as well.
Yeah.
And lastly, tips for trying to conserve your mats, to
Yeah.
try to hold on to
Or
and conserve your mats.
yeah.
What do you got?
So yeah, Doc definitely brought up some good points there with the crates. Get your food donation up. Make sure you get as many crates as you can from those. Make sure you do your daily check-ins to go grab your stuff from your shelters. Don't take in high-end weapons if you are low on materials. You want to build up your inventory. So especially if you go in and with say like an AKM, ES16, M2 carbine, anything like a low grade weapon, if you kill like 1 or 2 people with like higher grade weapons that you can make it out with, like you don't even have to try to go for the drop, just survive, right? Survival is key in this game in so many aspects. So if you could upgrade your weapons and escape, um, even if you end up conserving that weapon for the long run, or if you just stockpile them for like a mass deconstruction, and then that way you build up your inventory by crafting lower grade weapons again, because it's a grind, right? You just want to like keep continuing to like raise your level of shelter to the point where it's self-sustainable. And that's one way you become self-sustainable, is if you could actually like get kills and like upgrade your weapons frequently, without having to rely on those higher tier weapons. So that's just a couple of
Yeah.
tips that I've kind of come across
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Like there's so many good common weapons, or even plentiful weapons, that you don't think you have to go out there with the best weapons. Like I change my weapons up a lot.
Yeah.
I've been playing for 2 years. I have a good stockpile of weapons. Yeah, I'll go out with purples. I rarely go out with golds, maybe on occasion, but very rare. But I'll go out with purples or rares or whatever. But I quite often will go back down to commons and uncommons, because sure, I have a lot of them, but there's good weapons there. Like the M16 and the
Mhm.
AKM are the two of the best weapons in the game, and they're common, and they're plentiful. Like not plentiful as in the rarity, but plentiful in that it's not hard to get them. You get parts for them, and just to build up a stock, a good stock of them.
Yeah.
And the M2 carbine is a great, plentiful rifle. It just is,
Yeah.
and it can fire in full auto and still do decent, but in single fire, I think it's still better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just,
Yeah.
there you go. Just those common weapons will save you a lot in the long run. If you're having trouble with your mats, don't worry about the big stuff. Go with the little stuff, and you'll do
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. And like whenever you go into an encounter, even if you're not going for kills, like make sure you fill up your inventory as much as possible. So like if you have open slots and you find weapon parts, take them. It doesn't matter if they are like common weapon parts like Thompson, or even knives, or even at that, if you find knives in one of the kitchens or whatnot, take them, deconstruct them. I know you're not going to get a ton of materials from them, but it will add up, especially if you're hard pressed for materials, right? You always want to try to fill up. We talked about this in like our beginner guide. You always want to try to fill up your weapon wheel, right? You want to get 2 primaries and 2 secondaries. If you can't, that's fine. But the more often you do it, the quicker you'll build up a solid inventory where you can deconstruct and get a ton of materials.
Yep.
So, and then like Doc mentioned earlier, it's like honestly, when you get to a certain point, your materials are basically going to be spent crafting portables, armor plates, maybe grenades. Like if you do enjoy grenades, maybe mortar strikes. Like so, it's all those high end consumables that are very common, that everyone not wants, but everyone uses, because they, it's kind of like required.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's honestly the goal, is like you want to be self-sustainable and not have to like, oh, I can't craft like 5 ports right now because I don't have the materials. And again, like this is why we wanted to come out with this episode, is like there's some people literally, they're streaming all day, and like I have no issues with like people streaming all day, but if you are literally hard pressed and you can't craft a port, and their inventory is literally like empty because they only like deconstruct everything except for maybe a handful of guns, 5 different guns, it's like there's an issue. You need to change your play style. You can't be aggressive. You can't just go for crate all the time. You need to change your play style, and be it either off stream, on stream, whatever. You need to like adapt, because you can't complain about having a lack of materials, and whatnot, because it's kind of your own fault, right?
Hey,
And like I don't I like, I'm not singling out anyone. I'm just saying like this is like something that it's noticeable. Like you even look. I've seen posts on Reddit about people running out of materials and whatnot. It's just like you're kind of doing it wrong. Like I know Vigor itself is great because you could have so many different play styles, but if you're at the point where your play style is actually hindering your progress within the game, you might have to reevaluate. So
I might have to change up a bit. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's always the people who are just going for the kills, right? They're going for the kills. They're trying to get us, high up on the leaderboards as they can for certain, just for kills. But yeah, they're not getting the best bang for their buck for materials or like stuff that they're taking out of the encounter. So that's a big thing. Like if you're running out there for kills, and then because you're so aggressive, you're dying more often than not, then okay, yeah, it's time to change for sure.
And that's the thing too, is like a lot of people didn't, it might sound bad, but like they didn't want to put the work in to the shelter to get to the point where it's self-sustainable. And they basically just wanted to, like, instead of learning how to walk and then jog and run, they literally just wanted to like run right off the bat and go kill everyone in sight right away. And it's like,
And not upgrade their shelter to get the best grades and best discounts and
exactly, right? Because you get to that point where you're able, it doesn't matter. Like, Doc, we have no shortage of guns. It's like if we wanted to just go for kills all the time, we can do it, and we don't have to care about like we're going to run out of materials for crafting either ports or armor plates, or if we want a specific gun, like we don't have that issue because we put in that work. And honestly, that is the end. Like for me, that is the end game of the Vigor itself. Now they're going to add to it, but I'm like, at the same point, it's like for anyone who started off, their goal should still be at the end of the day, not just climb the leaderboard for like kills or whatnot, but you still need to be sustainable. So, yeah. End of rant.
End of rant. All right. Sign off. Okay. But yeah, I think that's a good place to stop today. We spent an hour talking about materials.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of shocked. I was a little worried. I thought this was a great topic, but I was like, I don't know if we could make this an hour. But
we did it. No worries. But yeah, thanks again for listening. Thanks for coming back, because we did have like an extra week off. No, it's all cool. I could use the extra week off the last week too. I was all fine with it. But we're back. We'll be back in a couple weeks again. We already have ideas for our next couple episodes, so we're all good.
Yep.
And yeah, again, like, share, subscribe. We do appreciate it. Send us comments, and we'd like to hear from you and interact. It's all great. But again, until next time, I'm Doc Anton.
And I'm DJ Spencer.
Stay safe in the Outlands and have a great night. Bye.
Bye.
Lost your way again. You don't see your flame, flame up your dream. I know you'll find your way. You must be calm anyway. Grab your chance and flame, flame up your dream, flame up your